When Superior General of the Congregation of the Passion, Father Antonio Testa, first received a request in 1852 to send Passionists to America, he said no, questioning how it fit within the mission. Fortunately, Bishop Michael O'Connor, Ordinary of Pittsburgh, was persistent. On September 28, 1852, Father Antonio Calandri, Father Albinus Magno, Father Stanislaus Paritsky, and Brother Lorenzo di Giacomo were chosen to form the first Passionist community in America. They departed from Rome on October 10th, 1852, and arrived Sunday afternoon, November 14th, in the harbor of Philadelphia. A new chapter was about to begin. The Congregation of the Passion arrived in the United States of America. As Father Testa stated,
the true charity of Christ will reign. God will be in their midst, and with God, they will do great things.
I migrated to the States, came with a family. Few years later, probably 4 or 5 years later, I found the Passionists here in the States. The Passionists found me here. I never heard anything about the Passionists or who the Passionists were, if they ever existed before I came to the States. When I was back in Mexico, my years growing up there, I came here and found the Passionists, and of course, the struggles was the language, very little English, very obviously limited with very a strong accent, foreign accent, not knowing the culture, not being familiar with the culture, but not being afraid of risking into stepping into that unknown territory, you know, of knowing the culture, learning the language. I wasn't afraid. Why? Because one of the graces that I found in all this was not only the charism. The charism was the main grace that I found in all this, you know, in the call. But also the culture of hospitality, of inclusivity, of fraternity. When I came across the Passionists, the charism, it was like an awe moment, like an awakening experience, like no more. This is what I belong to. My first assignment for formation was Houston, with some fears and trepidations, but again, willing to risk my experience, my time, my moment there. And what I found was the most welcoming community I ever had since that time, you know. And from there on, I just kept experiencing a culture of inclusivity, acceptance, a culture of acknowledgement. I kept fighting, and I'm still fighting the issue of acculturation. I'm always willing to enculturate myself into the culture, because that means I learned from your culture, and I have been learning from the culture of this country, but I'm willing, and I'm most willing to tell and teach about my culture. I'm not willing to lose my roots, my cultural identity and roots. And that's what I found with this Passionist community. Respect for that, acceptance for that, and of that identity. When I was going through my formation years in Houston, my initial formation years, many times I would find myself alone in the house, in the residence, and the weekends, because all of the Passionists were out doing ministry. In those moments when I found myself alone, I would always find myself asking the question, what am I doing here? Why should I not go back home? In those moments of doubting, darkness, I found grace. I found the Holy Spirit saying, look back where you started, where you are, and where you can go from here to that point. And ever since that moment of experience of grace, it has been my journey with the Passionists. Every time I find myself in times and moments of darkness, of doubting, what am I doing here? I find grace in that. I find the power of the Holy Spirit saying, you belong.
So as a foreigner, when I entered the Passionist, knowing that it is an international community, but at the same time, I was looking forward to serving the American vineyard or the American church. So there was in me a strong desire to understand and how to become more acceptable to the American church. I still have difficulty with, I have accent, and my skin has a different color, even if I'm ordained in the Catholic Church. And so that was kind of my trepidation at the beginning. There was even many times I thought about, is this really where the Lord is calling me, or should I go back to the Philippines? A big part of me, I was worried, what if I become a priest and preach and to predominantly white, people of different color, not like me, and with my accent, and those were my trepidations, and the acceptance, how effective the proclamation from me might get to the people I was presenting. And for one number of years that I struggled to kind of fit into that acceptability, and I've had some at my face during confessions being told, because you don't understand, you're not coming from this culture. Even inside a community, when I started to mingle in with the older Passionists, those Passionists who had an opportunity to go on mission overseas, the easiest for me to connect. But you know what, through the years, do I still have these feelings inside me? Yes, I still have this, but not as intense as I started.
My story begins really early. I grew up in a Passionist parish in Polyport, India, and American Passionists used to come there, especially Father Joe Moons and Blaze. And as a kid, when I used to see him standing in front of the parish house, the rectory, like a tall white guy, I used to run away. Like I was afraid because I could not. First of all, I did not know the language that he spoke, and I was not confident enough. But Passionist charism made an impression in me, because growing up in Passionist parish, I found Passionists being different, really different than other religious group, because they connected with people. They just did not took care of the spiritual aspect, the spiritual need of the people, but they visited homes, the sick, and they would have meals with them and play with them and be with them. And I thought, wow, there should be something special about these guys. And that's what instilled in me to know more about Passionists and join. And I joined when I was 15 years old. And that year, that time you do not know what you're jumping into. You don't know much about But each year in my formation, I realized I was so joyful being in the Passionist seminary, and the culture of hospitality and the culture of acceptance. And, as I said, Passionist in United States had started in India. So every year, one or two times, the Passionists from the provincial, especially the provincial or council member from Holy Cross province used to visit India. So we started the connection there. Like, we have seen how Americans look like and how they speak, and what what they like and what they don't like. When I was in novitiate, before taking the vows, Father Paul was my novice master, and he says, well, when you take your vows, when you enter into the real passionist life and put on your habit, remember that you're being a passionist is taking your vows not just for India or for just the country you are in. You're taking vows for to spread the charism of the entire congregation. So you're becoming a passionist for the world, for the mission of the church. And I did not understand the meaning of it unless and until in 2016, that was 2 years after my ordination. Father Tommy was the provincial. He says, well, we need a person to go to do the mission appeal in the United States. So I think you are the right person to go there. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, now what? Now, okay, now where should I start? It feels like all the, it was a big pressure on me to learn. Like, I've heard about America, have seen movies, and I have seen some pictures, but actually going there, what do I need to do? Especially in terms of ministry and preparing for it. And Father Tommy said, don't worry about anything. Say yes, God will provide. He said, say yes, God will provide. And I still remember when I reached there, I had the pastor in that parish had left for his holidays, and there was the deacon, we are still great friends. And I told him, this is my first time celebrating Mass, preaching in the United States. Treat me like a kid. I do not know, and tell me what to do, what not to do. And like a good brother, he explained to me A to Z everything, and he was with me guiding, and he said, this is what you should do, and this is what you should not do, and all that. Again, God finds people on the way. I still believe that. After the mission appeal, it was a farming country, and they gave asparagus, wrapped. I thought it was a sign of thank you, and they gave me the flowers. I never seen asparagus before, so I thought it was a blooming bud that will bloom later. They gave me a flower. I took it to Chicago and put it in the glass bowl, thinking that it'll come out. And Father Jack saw it and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Yeah, they gave me some flower buds. It's going to bloom." He laughed a lot, and he said, "Let me do something better." So he took it and he cooked, and he said, "Fibbin, that's not a flower, that's a vegetable." Most of the things were new to me, and I kept my learning ears open, just to be, keep learning along the way and finding graces. As I said, I always believe, I always like the explanation or the definition of faith for me is jumping into the incomprehensible, refusing absolute clarity. It's jumping, it's a leap of faith. Without, some of it, but you do not know all of it. You trust the unknown part, and God will provide that unknown part to you and find people along the way.
The society, the church has really evolved quite fast, and many cultures. It's really a grace that the church is becoming more universal and diverse. Different colors are in the crowd, and that's I think a really big grace for me. Compared to the beginning, I was preparing a mindset. Will I be able to fit this culture, this white dominant Anglo culture? But later on, I think it's grace for me to be able to be flexible, and here I can serve whoever where there's a need, and I make myself available.
Yeah, when Alfredo was sharing about the enculturation and all that, coming for mission appeal just for 2-3 months and coming to St. Agnes to work longer time was different experience altogether. And coming to St. Agnes, Louisville, Kentucky, the first experience I had was when I landed in the Louisville airport. Father David Collar with the parishioners, they were there with a welcome sign, a big welcome sign, welcome to Kentucky. And there were at least 10 people. And coming after 24 hours of flying and coming with a lot of unknown things in mind, a lot of uncertainties, that was so much consoling and welcoming. I said, wow, I'm coming to a community who is ready to welcome me. I work with the refugee ministry, and whenever the refugees come, I make sure that I go and stand there with them, showing the welcoming board, because I know how it made me feel welcomed when I came to Kentucky. And as I said, one of the grace was David Collar, and he had been to India, and he was in India for I think 5-6 years, so he knows a lot about Indian culture and how we think and all that, how we feel. So he was kind of a bridge for me to connect to the American culture.
Another grace that has been feeding my vocation as a Passionist is finding here in the United States a community of both vow and lay Passionists, especially here in Holy Cross province, that is willing to be open to stretch out themselves to cultural boundaries, with respect, mutual respect, but to explore the unknown territory with that attitude of that sense of awareness, of inclusivity, sensitivity, respect, being part of this Passionist family in Holy Cross province that is willing to grow up by pruning ourselves, and getting rid of what is not needed, what is not usable. And of course, trimming, pruning, cutting off is not a pleasant experience, can be really painful, very painful. But in the end, there is moment of grace, because it brings more life, more color into that experience, that vocation experience as a Passionist, which has been my experience.
The common thing about the culture is a Passionist culture. That doesn't change. That's the same. Even India or United States, Germany, anywhere in the world, that's the same. The hospitality, the love towards humanity, that doesn't change. And love towards the passion of Christ, that doesn't change.